Hi guys, welcome back to the Obi-Wan channel. Um, Forgive the mess. I'm trying to get this thing together here. It's really tight in here. It's cold outside, so everything got to come inside. And I got parts coming in. I got pieces coming in. Not only that, not for mine, but I also my son. And they work in construction, and they got their toys, etc., 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 etc. It's just a mess in here, but you'll have to forgive that. I'm trying to get all this working so that I can get it, put inside that engine, and then of course it would really probably clean up a lot of things here. So, let's talk about the Junkyard Dawg 302, which let me just start off by saying that I'm finding it really, really, really hard to stay in the junkyard mode because of the fact that I want what I want, and I do want it to be right. Obviously I don't want to throw a rod right away or have piston rings go out right away, that kind of stuff. I actually want it to run and be decent. I'm not expecting this thing to be a super high performing unit, but I do want it to run nice. That's what I want, okay? And I want to do it as cheap as possible just to get this thing to where I can start it up and get the transmission all filled up, and hopefully that thing works, and then be able to move it in and out without actually having to push it in and out all the time. It'd just be nice to have an engine in it. And then of course this engine will, if it runs as I think it will, then what I plan to do, of course, is keep it as a backup between me and my buddy, by the way, because a lot of this, believe it or not, is his. Some of this stuff is his, and some of this stuff is mine, and some of this stuff I'm buying, and so on and so forth. So, but if you go to my 1.5 or part 1.5 or whatever, if you want to call, you will, if you've been there, but if you haven't, you'll hear about the story of my Lincoln Versailles that was 60 over, and that engine was in a flood, and it was locked up, and it was rusty as hell, and I ended up making it run, and it ran pretty good, actually. It ran really good, which is why I think the shortcuts that I am taking will work pretty easy, considering what I did with that rusty 302 that I had put together a long time ago. So here's one of the parts that just came in. Here we go. Pistons right here. It's the Silverlight 3101 HC 60 overs. Now, yeah, I got two of them. Well, I bought this one first on eBay. They said they had 12 available. It took them over 2 to 3 weeks to ship. So by the second week, I'm like looking for another set, see if I can get something sooner. Because if they would have shipped on time, I'd have had all this stuff done by Thanksgiving, but they didn't. And I found this set, and this I think was from like a pawn shop, an online pawn shop, and the bid was so crazy low that I'd have been stupid not to actually bid on it. So I got that set of pistons there for $80, and I paid full price for the other ones. And by the time I tried to cancel, they were like, oh no, we just shipped it out. And I think they were just making excuses or whatever, but I don't care. I got a whole bunch of stuff over there. I can make another set of pistons work because I've got plenty of engines in here. But anyway, this is what they look like right here. As you can see, it says 60 over right on it. These are hyper-eutectic flat tops with the, what do you call, Molly type sheet coating or whatever. I don't know what the heck they call that. It's got the press pin, of course. They do not have any kind of locking ring in here, so these are press fit for sure. This is what came out of this engine. So this is a C8 block, and it had a 1M crank in it, so that's 289, and these are 289 style rods. These are compression height of 1.5, where these are compression height of 1.605 or something like that. When I put this in the engine here with the 302 crank, it stuck up about 40,000 of an inch. And yeah, I suppose I could have had these milled off. Let me just put it this way. I know that would have been at least $100 to do that, and then trying to find somebody who'd be willing to do that, that's another story. And I just paid $80 for those piston shipped, so now you know why I went that route. And even though I paid full price for the other set, that was what, $220 or something like that, still would have been, you know, the piston that I want, that I need, and brand new. And I spent maybe an extra $100 or so, maybe $50 over what it would have taken to have somebody mill these off completely, 40 thousandths of an inch. But then this dish here would still be pretty large, and by the math that I had with the heads that I have available over here, this was going to be under 9-to-1 compression. And right now, this set is going to be right at 9-to-1 compression on one set of heads that I have, which is this blue set right there. See, there's 6870cc is kind of, sort of. Now, I don't have an actual precision measure, for the for cc. I just take a syringe, right? I just take a syringe and I fill it up with 60cc, and I start dumping. I get everything closed up. I put a spark plug in, I flip it upside down, and I just start pouring it in there, and I start looking at it eye level. And when I see that it's getting really close, because you're supposed to use a plexiglass and fill it up and get all the air bubbles out. I suppose that's the exact precision measurement, but I'm just wanting to see approximately where we're at. And when you look these heads up, that's what they say they should be. It's 68 to 70 cc. So I mean, it worked. Even my old-fashioned way of doing it. But anyway, what's so significant about these is you can see I've got these babies all ported out already. So those are the ones I actually want to use. However, that 68 to 70 cc is going to barely get me to, even with those new pistons over there, it's barely going to get me to a 9-to-1 compression. Now, these over here, these are not ported out. As you can see, it's got the old, Ford square port. Basically, they've not been ported out. But this is my son's engine, by the way. It's a 351, and we're gonna. And this one here, somebody put. If you probably heard the story already, they put a 50-ounce flex plate on it, and that's why this thing was shaking like a mofo. And it's all rebuilt. Like, this thing doesn't look it, but it's brand new, okay? And I don't think this thing ran more than 20 hours, probably. Not even that. But we're going to tear it apart, clean it really good, and put it all back together. And this is going to go in his 1980 shaky Fox body. We call it the shaky because this was a shaky engine. But anyway, we're going to put that in there. Well, anyway, these heads have been rebuilt, and because they look great, and they're 60cc. So I actually was thinking about using these, but they're not ported. So I think, again, for the sake of, cost and whatnot, I might go ahead and try to port the exhaust side at least, and maybe trim up a little bit on the intake side and use those heads on the Junkyard 302 over here. Just because, that I think would be a good combination. Plus the 60cc combustion chambers will get this here up to hopefully 9.2, 9.5 to 1 compression ratio, which is what I want anyway. So what have we done here? Well, it looks the same, right? But it's actually not the same. What happened is I actually did my final grind and polishing and all that. As you recall in the last video or two, I had the crank already in here, but I was sizing it. I was checking to make sure that the clearances were good, etc. Well, yesterday what I did is I took the crank and everything out, and I fired up my trusty steam cleaner here. This thing's awesome. Fired up my trusty steam cleaner, and I actually steam cleaned this whole thing. I got it really, really clean. I took the crank out, and I put that steam cleaner in every single hole from every single direction, and held it there for a good 10 seconds each one. And I don't know if you're familiar with that steam cleaner, but it's an awesome unit. Like, it can really blow some serious steam. And I cleaned everything out really, really well. And then I went ahead and put it all back together. But this time I actually put it back together with the rear main seal. As you can see here, a little bit of RTV on the back there to keep it from bleeding out through the parting line. So yeah, this is actually final assembly. I mean, as far as like we're on our way to building a short block now at this point. So that's basically what I did yesterday. I don't know if you guys have ever, you know, I mean, I have done rear main seals before, two-piece rear main seals. One of the things that I noticed about this one that was weird is that when I put it inside there, but I didn't read the instructions, of course, but when I put it in there, I usually take the parting line and kind of, you know, cock it just a little bit to where, you know, the seal is down on one side and high on the other side. And what I noticed about this seal is that thing was like really high on the other side. Like it was way too big. That's what I thought. Then I went over and I grabbed a Felpro seal, and I actually put those seals over here next to this one, and they were the same size. And according to them, the store, that this is actually for a 302. Then I start reading the instructions, which I didn't have instructions on that seal set. And it says, yeah, to do exactly what I've always done, which is kind of cock it just a little bit to put the parting line not right at the main cap. Put a little bit of sealant on the ends, stick it down there, and then start tightening down those caps and smash it in there. And that's what I did. And, I mean, it turns. So, I mean, yeah, it's a lot more solid now. It's a lot more, like, you know, grippy now. Also, obviously, I put a lot of grease. I put some grease there because they said use grease if you plan on leaving it store for a while. Well, I did grease on one side, and I did assembly slick lube on the other seal. So it's got a little bit of both, actually. So should work just fine. Also, I ripped out my camshaft from the box, and actually got, as you can see, it all lubed up in there. I actually installed my camshaft in there. A lot of people don't usually do that until they actually have a short block assembly, you know, all completely done as far as pistons and rods and crank and all that. But the reason why I did that is because, as you can see, it's a mess in here and parts are laying everywhere. So what I ended up doing was putting the cam inside there so it would get it out of my way elsewhere, basically, is why I did that. So, and I've got that in there. I think I'm going to have to cut that dowel pin, though. It looks a little long, but this thing here works pretty good. Obviously, I put the cam bearings in there. Had a little bit of issues, kind of, sort of, with that, and that has nothing to do with the engine itself. It was more the cam bearing installation tool, which I actually handmade years ago. Steel, you know, collars and whatnot. But anyway, another story. So put that in there. Molly lubed it up really good. Basically, I'm using this Clevite cam guard. I like that thick stuff for the flat tappet cams. This is not what you think it is. It says it's Lucas assembly lube, but actually this is Amsoil assembly lube in a Lucas bottle, because Lucas is actually green in color. The Amsoil assembly lube is red in color. As you can see, it's red. So I'm just using that bottle because it's kind of a little more handy, because it's got a sealable cap on it. Whereas the Amsoil bottle is one of them. It's like this. It's like a tube with a cap on it, and you know, you always have it upside down. I don't know, it just leaks all over the place. I like the idea of being able to just tip that and seal up that cap. So that's why that says Lucas, but it's not. It's actually Amsoil. You should know that if you know my channel by now, because I'm an Amsoil dealer. So go on over to Amsoil.com and put in my reference number 1086626 and get you some Amsoil, whatever you need. Assembly lube, engine oil, you name it. You can see right there, I am definitely an Amsoil dealer. Have been for the last 25 years. So, okay, good for the advertisers, right? Okay, now back to the project here. So, today the goal is to get out the old scale here, because that's what I use to measure and grind on these rods to get them all the same weight. Gonna get the old glass scale out, gonna put it right over here, gonna start labeling each piston and pin, and I'm going to make sure that they are all the exact same weight. And then once I know I have all those the exact same weight, the next thing I plan to do is actually try to figure out how I'm going to set these up to press, or not press, but put the press pins on, okay? The idea that I have in my mind is I'm going to take the rod here and, I don't know, I'm going to set it up somewhere. I'm going to try to use, at first, my heat gun. That's what I'm going to try to use at first. I'm going to put it on the high setting, and I'm going to try to, you know, I don't know, shroud it or something, you know, like build, I don't know about build, but I mean, I've got metal plate laying around here. Just try to figure out how I can kind of make a little cavern for the rod to sit there and have that electric heat gun just pointing, you know, on high right at the little end here. And then of course I have around here somewhere, here it is, I got me a infrared, what do you call these, thermometer, kind of, sort of, I can't remember, but there's an actual term for this. But anyway, point this sucker at it and try to, according to what I'm reading online, try to get it up to 400 to 600 degrees, and that should be hot enough. Of course, it's cold outside. As you can see, we got some snow out there. I don't know, can you see? Yeah, you can see, there it is. Yeah, got snow out there. It's probably about 15, 20 degrees outside. Take the pins, stick them outside that door right there, let them sit there for about an hour or so, and get these pistons kind of up to operating temperature here, you know, room temperature. Get these things heated up. Probably build myself a little jig here made out of wood, because I got some wood around here. Flip these things upside down like so. Put it in that jig. Get everything to where you got a process to where you know which way is facing front on the piston and where the number is on the rod. Get it all lined up, stick it over here, drop it right there, and push the pin in. That's exactly how I plan to do it. So we're going to see how that works. If that heat gun can't get it hot enough, then we're going to resort to the little butane torch right here. That's what we're going to resort to. That should definitely do it. But I like the idea of the electric, you know, heat gun, just because it has less of a chance of where that thing can put a lot of concentrated heat, and you got to keep it moving so you don't make like blue marks or whatever, which is what I'm trying to avoid. Although it's been done many times before and people run them, but I'm going to try to do whatever I can to keep, you know, from bluing the ends of the rod. Let's put it that way. I don't know if it'll happen, and if it does, I'm not going to be disappointed, because again, I've seen it time and time again. But I also have seen rods assembled like this that are not blued on the ends. Of course, it's a little stained from the oil and everything, but you can pretty much see that this went on nicely. So if they can do it, somehow I can do it. All right, well, that is currently the latest update with the Junkyard Dawg 302 here. So like, subscribe, share this with your friends. If you got somebody who knows he likes engines and this kind of stuff, and they're just, you know, looking for something to watch, hey, this is the thing to watch. All right, so come back, because I'm gonna have a lot more. We're gonna do this from start to finish, and you'll get to see the whole thing going down. All right, thank you guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.